Come on in, honey. Don't mind the boxes cluttering up the hallway. I'm just doing a bit of deep down organizing in the pantry. It seems like every time I turn around, I find another jar of pickled okra I forgot I'd put up, or a tin of cocoa powder that's seen better days. Sit yourself down right there at the table. I just pulled a pan of cornbread out of the oven, the real kind, made in the heavy skillet with the crispy, buttery edges that snap when you bite into M. There's some clover honey right there if you want to sweeten it up, or some apple butter if you're feeling fancy. You know, people look at me and they see a woman who belongs to the era of rotary phones and handwritten grocery lists. And they aren't wrong. I still believe a thank you note should be written on thick cardstock with a fountain pen, and I still keep my recipes on 3x5 cards that are stained with vanilla extract and cocoa powder from 40 years of Sunday dinners. But don't you ever let these silver curls fool you into thinking I'm behind the times. I've learned that the world changes its clothes, but the people underneath, they stay the same. There's always been folks who think they can pull the wool over your eyes just because you move a little slower or prefer the feel of a newspaper over a glowing screen. Last year, I had a bit of a trial. You remember the great foundation shift over on my side of town? Lord, the ground just decided to get restless. My whole house started acting up. The doors wouldn't latch, the windows groaned in their frames, and the east side of the house started humming like a disturbed beehive every time the wind caught the eaves. The contractors came out, big men with muddy boots and clipboards, and they told me I had to clear out. They had to jack the whole place up, inch by agonizing inch, and pour a new slab. Now, I could have gone to stay with my niece Alina. She offered, bless her heart, but she's got those 3 beautiful, rowdy boys and a husband who works the graveyard shift at the plant. I didn't want to be the great aunt in the corner, making everyone walk on eggshells. I value my independence like a cat values its whiskers. So, I did something I never thought I'd do at 70 years old. I took a roommate. A friend of a friend from my bridge club told me about a girl named Chloe. She was 26, worked at some high-energy marketing firm in the city, and had a 2-bedroom duplex over on Magnolia Lane. It's a pretty street, lined with those old trees that drop white petals like snow in the spring. Chloe was looking for someone to split the rent for 6 months, while her previous roommate was off trekking through Europe. It seemed like a godsend, a nice, quiet duplex, and a short-term lease. When I first met Chloe, she was as sweet as a Georgia peach in July. She had that bright, bouncy blonde hair and a smile that looked like it had been polished by a professional. She called me Miss June, with such reverence you'd have thought I was a founding mother of the state. Miss June, she said, showing me the spare room with its white walls and plush carpet. I'm just so thrilled you're moving in. It's been so quiet here, and I just love the idea of having someone with a bit more perspective around the house. It'll be so cozy, like having a built-in grandma. I winced a bit at the grandma part. I might be old, but I'm still June. But I kept my peace. I moved in with 3 suitcases, my favorite quilt, and my seasoned cast iron skillet. The arrangement was plain as day. We'd split the rent right down the middle, and we'd split the utilities. Water, power, and that high-speed internet she said she needed for her virtual brainstorming sessions. Chloe handled all the accounts in her name because she'd lived there for 3 years already. Send me your half of the bills every month through PayPal, she told me, waving her shiny smartphone around like a magic wand. It's so much easier than paper checks, Miss June. No stamps, no envelopes, no fuss. The money just zips through the air and lands in my account. Now, honey, let me tell you something about air money. I don't trust things that zip through the sky without without leaving a footprint on the ground. Hank always told me, June, if you can't touch the proof, you don't own the truth. So I set up that app on my phone. Every month, Chloe would text me a photo of the utility bills. She'd send a picture of the power bill, the water bill, and the internet statement. Power is $140, water is $60, internet is $80, she'd text. Your half is $140, Miss June. Hope you're having a fabulous day, roomy goals. I'd go right into that app and I'd send her the money. But every single time, and I mean every single time, I did something Chloe probably thought was just an old woman being fussy. In that little box where the app asks if you want to add a note, I didn't leave it blank. I typed it out clear as a bell. June Miller reimbursement for utilities January, power, water, WFI. And then I'd take a screenshot. I'd press the buttons on the side of my phone until it made that little clicking sound, capturing that screen right there. And I'd email that picture to my own account. And once a month, I'd take a stroll down to the Oak Haven Public Library. I love that library. It smells like old paper and quiet thoughts. I'd use their color printer, pay my 15 cents a page, and I'd print those pictures out. I put them in a bright green accordion folder. I called it my duplex folder. Chloe would see me coming home with my little stack of papers, and she'd giggle. That high, tinkling sound that started to grate on my nerves after a while. Oh, Miss June, you're so adorable. Why are you wasting trees? It's all saved in the cloud forever. You're living in the past, honey. Well, Chloe, I'd say, set it in my folder on the kitchen counter. I've seen clouds bring rain, and I've seen M blow away in a stiff breeze. But I've never seen a piece of paper disappear unless someone deliberately set a match to it. I like to keep my feet on the ground. For the first few months, the cozy feeling held up. But then, the mask started to slip. Chloe was a whirlwind of a girl. She'd leave her designer high heels shoes that cost more than my monthly grocery budget right in the middle of the hallway like tripwires. Her takeout containers from those fancy organic cafes would sit on the coffee table until they started to grow their own ecosystems. I didn't complain. I'd just pick them up, wash her dishes, and keep the peace. I figured 6 months wasn't a lifetime. But then the shopping bags started arriving. Every day, the delivery trucks would stop in front of the duplex. Big boxes, small boxes, bags with ribbons. Chloe would come home and tear into them like a kid at Christmas. She got a new car, a little white convertible that looked like a shiny bar of soap. She started wearing jewelry that sparkled a bit too much for someone who was always complaining about how taxing her life was. June, she'd say, sipping a glass of wine that smelled like old socks but cost $40 a bottle. The city is just sucking my soul dry. Everything is so expensive. I think the power company is targeting us. I might need you to pitch in an extra $50 for administrative fees next month. It's a nightmare. I didn't argue. I'm not a confrontational woman by nature. I just asked to see the bill. And when she showed it to me, there weren't any administrative fees. It was the same as it had been the month before. I just paid my half, typed my memo, took my screenshot, and filed my paper. For the 5th month, the air in that duplex had turned as sour as a jug of milk left out in the August sun. Chloe stopped calling me Miss June. She didn't even call me June with any kindness. It became a sharp, barked-out name. She'd stomp through the house if I was watching the evening news. She'd detail me my old-fashioned cooking my pot roast, and my collard greens was clinging to her dry clean only blazers. It's just a lot, having so much energy. In the house, she'd say, looking at me like I was a piece of dusty furniture she was ready to donate. I knew my time was up. My house back on the hill was ready. The foundation was rock solid. The new floors were level enough to roll a marble across, and the smell of fresh paint was like a promise of a new start. I told Chloe I'd be moving out on the 1st of the month, exactly as our agreement stated. "Oh," she said, her eyes turning cold and calculating. "Well, we'll see about that. We'll have to do a final walkthrough and settle the accounts. I'll need a few days to calculate the final damages and the outstanding debts." I had given her a $1,200 security deposit when I moved in. Now, honey, $1,200 might be pocket change to a girl with a convertible, but to me, that's my new tires fund. That's the money that keeps me from panicking when the refrigerator starts making that ominous rattling sound. It's my peace of mind. Moving day came. My niece Macy and her husband, Dave, showed up with their truck. I left that room in the duplex cleaner than the day I arrived. I scrubbed the baseboards with a toothbrush. I vacuumed inside the closet. I even polished the brass doorknob until it shone like a new penny. I met Chloe in the kitchen for the final handoff. I held out my hand, expecting my deposit check. Chloe didn't reach for her purse. She reached for a leather-bound notebook. She looked at me with a fake, pained expression, the kind people wear when they're about to tell you a lie they think you're too stupid to catch. "So, June," she said, flipping through her pages, "I've gone over the digital ledgers, and honestly, it's quite awkward. After deducting the final utility bills and all the unpaid balances from the last 6 months, there actually isn't anything left of your deposit. In fact, my calculations show you owe me an additional $75 for loss of convenience and unpaid power." My heart gave a heavy thump against my ribs, but I didn't let my hands shake. "Unpaid balances, Chloe. I've paid my half of every single bill. We were square every month." "Well, the app doesn't say that," she said, showing me her phone screen from a distance. "I see your rent transfers, sure, but I don't see any separate payments for utilities. I think you got confused, honey. You probably thought the rent included everything, but it didn't. So, the total for 6 months of utilities comes out to almost exactly $1,200. I'm willing to waive the extra $75 as a favor to you, since you're on a fixed income." She gave me this little pity smile. It was the kind of smile that makes you want to go out and buy a boxing glove. She thought she'd found an easy mark. She thought I was just an old lady who didn't know how to navigate the digital ledger. She thought she'd just found a way to pay for her next car payment using my sweat and my savings. "I've checked my PayPal 3 times, June," she snapped when I didn't immediately agree. "There are no utility payments. If you didn't label them properly, they just vanished into the general feed. And since you can't prove you sent them, the money stays with me. That's just how the new economy works. If it's not in the app, it didn't happen." I felt a spark of fire in my chest. Not a wildfire, but a steady, hot coal. I reached into my canvas tote bag. "You're right about one thing, Chloe," I said, my voice as calm as a Sunday morning. "The world does work a certain way, but it's not the way you think." I pulled out the green folder. It was thick. It was heavy. And it was full of the one thing Chloe hadn't counted on, the truth, printed on paper. "I'm moving home now," I said. "But before I go, I think we should have a little analog meeting. I've brought some pictures I think you're going to find very, very interesting." Chloe looked at that green folder like it was a hornet's nest I just laid on her granite countertop. She tried to keep that boss babe posture of hers, shoulders back, chin up. But I saw the way her eyes darted toward the door. She was looking for an exit. But honey, I've spent 40 years in a classroom. I know how to keep a body in their seat until the lesson is over. "June, I really don't have time for this," she said, her voice getting that sharp, city slicker edge to it. I have a brunch meeting with my creative director in 15 minutes. The deposit is settled. I've already sent the final report to the property management company. It's done. Oh, you spoke to Mr. Henderson? I asked, pulling out the first page from the folder. That's funny, because I spoke to Mr. Henderson this morning too. I told him we were having a little technical misunderstanding with our digital transfers. He was very concerned. He said he'd be happy to stop by and mediate if we couldn't find the missing money ourselves. The name, Mr. Henderson, made her flinch. He's a retired Marine who's owned half the rentals in Oak Haven since before Chloe was born. He doesn't like drama. He doesn't like lies. And he especially doesn't like people who mess with his security deposits. You called the landlord, Chloe hissed, her face turning a splotchy, angry red. That is so incredibly unprofessional. This is a private roommate dispute. It became professional the moment you tried to steal $1,200 of my life savings. Sugar, I said. Now, sit yourself down. Let's look at page 1. I laid the first screenshot on the counter. It was a clear, color printout of my phone screen from January. It showed the transfer for $140. And there, in the little memo box, I'd circled it in red ink. June Miller Utilities, 4 January Power Water WFI. Chloe blinked. She snatched the paper up, her designer nails scratching at the page like she could claw the ink off. This is just a picture. Anyone can fake a picture on a computer. This isn't official. Is that so? Asked, my voice getting smoother. Well, let's look at February, and March, and April. I laid them out one by one, like I was dealing a winning hand of poker. Every single month was there, every date, every amount. And every single one had that memo, clear as day. And here, I said, pulling out the final piece of the puzzle, is my certified bank statement from this morning. You see these transaction IDs? They're like fingerprints, Chloe. You match the IDs on these fake pictures perfectly. I've already highlighted them for the bank's fraud department, just in case we couldn't resolve this as ladies. Chloe's jaw actually dropped. She looked at the papers, then at her phone, then at me. The marketing genius had been outmaneuvered by a woman who still uses a physical calendar. I must have missed the memos, she stammered, her voice losing its edge and becoming small and shaky. The app, the interface is very cluttered. It's an honest mistake, June. I'll send you a check for the utilities later this week. Oh no, honey, I said, reaching back into my bag. We aren't just talking about utilities now. We're talking about my deposit, because you said you were keeping it to cover these missing payments. But since the payments aren't missing, the deposit is still mine. All $1,200 of it. But the cleaning, she suddenly yelled, desperate now. The carpet in your room. I had to have it professionally steam cleaned because of the old people smell, and the baseboards were dusty. I'm deducting $400 for deep cleaning services. I laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh, just a tired one. I pulled my phone out and hit play on a video. Macy, I said to the phone, tell the nice people what we did this morning. The video showed the two of us, me and my niece, scrubbing those baseboards with lemon oil. It showed us running a professional grade vacuum over every inch of that carpet. And then it showed me holding up that morning's newspaper, dated and clear, to prove the room was spotless the moment I left. I've already sent this video to Mr. Henderson's email, I told her. He told me it was the cleanest he'd seen that unit since he built it in '98. Chloe slumped against the counter. The boss babe was gone. She looked like a little girl who'd been caught drawing on the walls. She didn't look at the papers anymore. She just stared at the floor. I don't have it, she whispered. Don't have what, Chloe? The money, she said, her voice cracking. The deposit. I spent it, I thought. I thought you wouldn't be able to prove anything. I had that car payment, and I bought those shoes for the gala, and my credit card was maxed out. I thought I could just adjust the ledger and you'd just go away. I felt a pang of sadness for her. I really did. It's a tragedy to see a young person so hungry for the look of success that they're willing to rot their own character to get it. But as my daddy used to say, pity don't pay the light bill. Chloe, I said, leaning in, you have 10 minutes. You can call your bank, or you can call your mama, or you can call that creative director you're supposed to be meeting. But if $1,200 doesn't zip through the air and land in my account by the time I finish this cup of water, I'm going to open that door for Mr. Henderson. And I suspect that when he hears you've been embezzling security deposits, your lease is going to be the next thing that disappears. She spent those 10 minutes on her phone, her voice hushed and frantic. She was crying, real tears this time, not the dramatic ones, but the ugly, scared ones. I don't know where the money came from. Maybe she had a rainy day fund she'd forgotten about, or maybe she had to sell those fancy shoes on a resale app right then and there. But 8 minutes in, my phone chimed. A notification popped up. CHLOEV has sent you $1,200. Memo. Security deposit return in full. I took a screenshot of that too, just for the collection. There, she spat, wiping her face with a designer tissue that probably cost $1 a sheet. You got your money. Now take your trashy papers and get out of my duplex. With pleasure, Chloe, I said, gathering my folder. And just a bit of life experience for you, honey. You can buy all the convertibles and designer shoes you want, but they won't keep you warm at night if you don't have a solid place to stand. You're building your life on a cloud, and clouds always break eventually. I walked out of that duplex and felt the sun hit my face. It felt like a blessing. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw Mr. Henderson's truck pulling in. I rolled down my window and gave him a big, friendly wave. Morning, Mr. Henderson, I called out. Morning, June. Everything squared away with the young lady. Perfectly squared, I said. We had a little talk about digital footprints, and she found exactly what she was looking for. I drove back to my house, my real house. I walked through the front door, and I didn't mind the boxes. I didn't mind that the pantry was a mess. The foundation was solid, the walls were straight, and my name was as clean as a whistle. You know, honey, it's a strange thing. People think that because we have all these apps and screens and clouds, that the old truths don't matter anymore. They think they can hide behind a delete button. But the truth is like a tree. You can hide it in the fog. You can cover it with snow. But when the sun comes out, those roots are still there, holding everything up. I'm glad I took those screenshots. I'm glad I spent my 15 cents a page at the library. Because in the end, it wasn't the app that saved me. It was the footprints. Chloe moved out a month later. I heard she had to move back in with her parents because she couldn't afford the car. And the rent at the same time, once Mr. Henderson started looking closer at her books. I hope she's learning. I hope she's finding out that a life built on zip is a life that'll eventually blow away. Now, let me get you another piece of that cornbread. I think the honey has finally soaked all the way through to the middle, and there isn't a digital thing in this world that can match that taste. There's a deep, quiet peace that comes with knowing your house is sitting on a solid slab. You can hear the Georgia wind howl. You can feel the summer rain beat down, but you know you aren't going to wake up tilted. Life is the same way, sugar. If you build your reputation on the truth and you keep your records straight, you don't have to worry about the shift. That green folder is tucked away in my roll-top desk now, right next to Hank's old watch and the deed to this land. I don't look at it often, but I like knowing it's there. It's a reminder that even in a world that's moving a mile a minute, there's still power in a piece of paper. There's still power in a memo. There's a whole lot of power in a woman who knows her worth and isn't afraid to prove it. I'm so glad you stopped by today. Talking it out makes the air feel a little clearer, like a breeze through the screen door. You come back soon, you hear? I've got a feeling the next batch of stories is going to be even better. And don't you ever let anyone tell you that the way it's done now means you have to leave your common sense behind. You take your pictures, you write your notes, you keep your footprints. Because one day, someone might try to tell you that you never walked the path. And when that happens, you're going to want to be able to show exactly where you've been. Now, let's go out to the porch. I think the hummingbirds are back at the feeder, and that's a sight that doesn't need a single app to be perfect.